Welcome. Thanks for joining me. Today, I'm very excited to be showing you my tips and tricks for string pull feathers. I've done many versions of these, and it's one of my absolute favorite fluid art techniques. There's something magical about feathers. They speak to me of freedom and flight and a connection with nature, aside from just being beautiful in and of themselves. Today I'll be showing you the process video for this trio of teal and gold feathers. This was a commissioned piece where my client was looking for something to complement an existing painting which she had in her office. So without further ado, let's get started. So first up is cutting your string. I like to measure and cut all of my pieces of string before I start painting. I like to lay my string out on my canvas, leaving at least 2 inches of space at the top of the canvas. Very important. Then extend the string down to the bottom and cut it off about equal length with the bottom edge of your canvas. I also like to use 2 pieces of string for each feather rather than using one piece, doing my pull, dipping it back in the paint, laying it down, and then pulling the other side of the feather. And I cut 2 pieces for each one. This is cotton, string, or yarn. It's a medium thickness. That would be a number 4 in yarn. So I'm going to go through this next part pretty quickly in the video as I just lay down the white, which I'm using as my background color for this set. I'm working on 3 4-inch by 12-inch canvases. I really love this size for the feathers. I've only ever been able to find them at Michael's. They come in a 3-pack, and I really think that the really long, narrow size just complements the shape of the feather. Of course, I've done them on many canvas sizes. This just happens to be one of my favorites. As you can see, I spread my paint with a hairdryer. That's my favorite way to spread the paint when I'm doing a string pull process. I find it leaves just the right amount of paint on the surface of the canvas. Next, on your work surface, start laying down the colors that you're going to use for your string pull. I've used gold, teal, white, bronze, and just a tiny bit of black. I have 2 strings for each feather, so that's 6 strings, 1 set of feathers for each canvas. Now I'm laying those down, starting again at least 2 inches from the top of the canvas. You need to make sure that you leave enough room at the top of your canvas that when your string comes up to the top and you're trying to shape that narrowed in part at the top of the feather, you need some extra room up there. Once I've laid down my strings, I also add little dots of the colors along each side, just randomly, to add some extra color when I'm doing my string pull. For this particular set, I want to make sure that the teal comes out dark enough and that the gold stands out, because those were the 2 important colors that my client wanted to match with her existing piece. Okay, we're ready to do our string pull. So grabbing one of the strings, we're just going to do one side at a time. Just begin to gently pull the string upward. You want to be pulling up and also lifting the string at the same time. You want to go slowly. As you can see, I'm dragging a puddle of paint. If you pull too quickly, that paint may spill over the top of the string and mess up the shape of your feather. So watch out for that. As I get close to the top, if it looks like my string is going to start pulling out of place, I just hold it down with my finger and continue to pull up. Sorry, I'm blocking that with my hand there. Maybe it wasn't the best camera angle, but I'm going to show it to you a couple more times. Now, here's one of probably my most important tips, is to use something. I'm using a little child's medicine syringe to suck up some of the excess paint that you're going to end up pulling up to the top of your feather. If you don't do this, the top can get really messy, and you're just going to end up with paint up at the top that is much, much thicker than on the rest of your canvas. It's also an important thing to do if you pull the first time and you're not completely happy with the way your feather looks. If you suck up that excess paint that's sitting up at the top, you can definitely pull again, 1, 2, even more times until you're happy with the way your feather looks. Alright, so I've gone through my first set of pulls, and although the feathers are looking pretty, the colors aren't coming out as deep and as strong as I want them to be to make sure that they match with my client's piece. So I'm going to pull a second time, like I was talking about. Now I'm doing the same thing, dipping my strings in my paint, adding daubs of my color, everything just like the first time. I'm doing it again. Just going to speed through this quickly because you've seen it once before. Okay, so that's starting to look better. Now, if the string from the bottom of your pull has messed up your white base a little bit, just touch that up, like I just did. And we're ready at this point to do the center of our feather. So just take one of your strings that you've used. I usually like to do just one string, not two for this, and start at the top in your thicker puddle of paint and just drag it down through the center of your feather to create the center part of the feather, the quill. And for this I use one of the dirty strings, one of the ones that has been in the paint. Great. Now I also like to add usually a little highlight to this part. So I'm going to take that same string again and dip it in a little bit of white and then pull back down through the center again. So it gives you sort of a little highlight down the center of your quill. Now I'm just giving a quick torching and assessing what I've got. And at this point, I've decided that I want to go one step further with this. So I've cut a short piece of string and I'm going to add some little swipes following the pattern that's already been laid out on my feather, with each of the colors just here and there to give some extra highlight and dimension. When I'm happy with the way everything else is looking, for my last step, I like to add a little bit more detail with my palette knife. I scrape little strokes up along the edge of the feather. This sort of breaks up the straight line and gives the feather a bit more of a fluffy look. When I've done that, I like to dip my palette knife back into some of my excess paint and add the little short fluffy plumes that you see at the bottom of a feather. Okay, I think that does it. Now I'll zoom in for a close-up with the flash on so you can see those colors and sparkle. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. All these things help me to be able to keep bringing you these videos. Happy pouring, or maybe I should say pulling. Hope to see you all next week.